you. All right, welcome everybody to our Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. This is Wednesday, September 14th at 5:30 p.m. And we have a pretty full agenda, I believe, tonight. So we'll start out with our welcome and meeting purpose. And our meeting purpose is always to improve the status of all of us in Siskiyou County with fire safe capabilities. So please put your name and your affiliation in the chat so we can capture those. And welcome everyone. And what I will do is to do a quick introductions. I'll just go around the room, so to speak, and ask you to introduce yourself orally. So Greg.
Scott. It burned out the back tail lights. I don't know what else.
Hold on a sec. Joey, you're talking in the background.
Yeah, I'll mute myself right now.
All right, Greg, could you introduce yourself again?
Yeah, Greg Dinger, Manchester West.
Thank you. Linda?
Linda Shaben from Dunsmuir, the Disaster Planning Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Scott?
Scott Steinbring, Director of Operations, Torchbearer.
Thank you. And Erica?
Yeah, hi, I'm Erica Terrence. I'm actually the planning director for Torchbearer, but I'm here tonight in my capacity as a public information officer for Klamath River Treks.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Kristen?
I am Kristen Norman. I am the administrative assistant to Giselle Nova for the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County.
Thank you, Kristen. Marie?
Hi, I'm Marie Caldwell. I direct the Siskiyou Works project, but I'm here tonight representing the Happy Camp Community Center and the Slater Fire Long-Term Recovery Group.
Good, thank you. MKWC, where'd you go? I lost your name.
I got to change my name. This is Michael Hens.
Thanks, Michael.
I work with the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council as a project coordinator, and I am also here to talk a little bit about our prescribed fire training exchange that we're having. So thanks for having me.
Great, welcome. Madeline? Madeline, are you with us? All right, Kathleen?
Kathleen Shirley. I'm here representing CORE. I'm their community outreach coordinator for Dunsmuir.
Okay, thank you. Marjorie?
Marjorie King, Fire Safe Council facilitator and member of the board of Fire Safe Council Siskiyou County.
Great. And is it Heike? Sorry if I mispronounced that.
Yes, it's Heike. We're just residents here in Dunsmuir, and we just attended the fire. Was it the first Fire Friday? And we were aware of this meeting, so we're just joining for the first time.
Great. Well, you're very welcome. And Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Wright. I'll be representing the Klamath National Forest on behalf of Jennifer Erickson. She's out on leave.
Okay. It's good to hear that she's on leave. I'm glad to hear she's getting some. Thank you, Anna. Rachel?
Hi, I'm a California Climate Action Corps fellow who's been working with the California Fire Safe Council, and we worked with Giselle and Christian back in June on the Wildland Fire Assessment Program.
Okay, great. Sarah?
And I am also one of the other California Climate Action Corps fellows working with the CFSC. And yeah, worked with Kristen and Giselle back in June on the WFAP training.
All right. Lindsay?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Lindsay Laschek. I'm the Forestry and Fuels Project Manager for the Shasta Valley Resource Conservation District, and also help coordinate the Siskiyou Prescribed Burn Association. I'm also leading the operations for the women's treks side of the Klamath Treks this year. So I have a couple hats tonight.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Okay, the room moved around on me. S. Pawson. All right. Delphine.
Hi, I am with the Shasta Valley RCD and the Siskiyou PBA.
Thank you. And Julie?
Sorry, trying to get this thing to go there. Hi, Julie Titus. I'm fire and fuels consulting work and have helped on a lot of projects around here, a lot of different groups, but probably the primary ones are the county-wide community wildfire protection plan, and those are the most recent, that and the Wairika plan. Also, a little while ago was the Dunsmuir plan. So kind of helping everyone when I can.
Thanks, Julie. And George, would you just introduce yourself, please?
Just found my way here, sorry.
All right.
George Jennings, I'm with the Wairika Area Fire Safe Council and the Executive Director of ORCAL RC&D Council.
All right. So we keep losing and getting people. So forgive me if I've missed anybody. All right. So on our agenda tonight, I'll just jump right into it because it's pretty big. So we're going to start off with Linda, and she's going to go over Code Red and Zone Haven. And one of the reasons we're doing this because I know that you know, the county just started with Zone Haven this last year, and we're hoping to get some time in there to introduce and educate people on it. And obviously we've had the need of it much faster than anybody wanted to have that need. And there's seems to me, a lot of confusion out there. So we were hoping that Linda could bring some clarity to our situation. So Linda, take it away.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll do this pretty quick because I think we've probably come a ways since the last meeting, especially with all the recent fires. We've all been getting used to Zone Haven, but just to give people some background, Zone Haven is a software company based out of San Francisco, and they've developed evacuation management tools to help with planning and training and resources for first responders, public safety agencies, and communities to manage evacuations and then the repopulations. And so Siskiyou County is now divided into individual zones, as we all know. And these zones are going to help our first responders and our emergency services agencies to make it an easier process, and it reduces confusion as well as helping residents evacuate quickly. Let's move to the next slide. So Zone Haven Aware is actually the site that we all use now. It is a web-based platform for community members. So it's the public face. It's where the public can view the status of their zone, find out where their zone is. Right now, there is no app, so it is a web-based, but you can use it on your phone or your computer. And the zones are used when a Code Red emergency alert notification goes out. To get there, you visit community.zonehaven.com, and I can certainly show you how to do it. I think we all know how to do it. If you want me to bring it up, I can certainly do that. But you can even just go to Zone Haven Aware on your browser and it'll take you there. But the direct way to get there is community.zonehaven.com. You click on the zone, you type in your address in the browser at the top left corner. You click on the zone and you'll see a description of your zone's name, the border of your zone, the current status, and whatever additional information is needed. And if your zone is activated for evacuation order or warning or for shelter in place, you'll see additional information. And what's really cool is there's also a link to sign up for Siskiyou County Code Red. So when we've been, CORE, you know, as you know, has been helping us in Dunsmuir as well as up in other places in the county, and our Fire Safe Council has also been helping people sign up for Zone Haven. We write their zone down on one of the magnets that the county has. And then, but if they're not signed up for Code Red, you can sign them up right there on your zone. And it takes you right to the Siskiyou County Code Red sign up, because you want to make sure people are signed up with the county. If you go to the more national Code Red sign up, you probably won't get the Siskiyou County alerts. And I can show you that on the map if you want to see it. Just some tips. You can bookmark on your phone and your computer for easy access. You obviously want to write your zone down and place it on your fridge or some accessible area. As I said, those Zone Haven magnets are available. You want to write down additional zones of interest, like your work or your office, your children's zone, your school, your family members' zones, etc. And you want to talk to your family and friends to ensure that they know their zone. I think it's also important for the work that we all do is to help people understand the importance of Zone Haven, knowing your zone, and that it, you know, it's not just for wildfires, it's for all public emergencies, public crises, whether that's a hazardous spill or it's an active shooter event or it's an earthquake and flooding. So it's very important for people to know their zones. The other thing that I thought was a really good idea is become familiar with your zone on both the platform via your phone or your computer and in real life. So you walk around, you drive around your zone, get familiar with the places maybe you're not so familiar with, locate ways of getting in and out of your zone, and then take a screenshot of your zone and its surrounding area, print that out, and then draw your multiple ways you can get in and out. And this is something we can share with citizens to encourage them to do that as well. So, and the thing I want to make sure you're aware of, I'm keeping this really short and simple. The best thing that I've found is the Zone Haven Aware FAQ. It's a frequently asked questions. It's now posted on the Fire Safe Council's webpage. And if you go to the link, it pretty much tells you everything. You can download a PDF of it, and it again goes through everything. It tells you what Zone Haven Aware is. It takes you to the help center, and it's not easy to find this on the regular Zone Haven Aware site, but this particular PDF and handout is very helpful. You can go to an article that really takes you through the steps of how to find your zone. It talks about, you know, how to, some of the tips, become familiar, know your zones, and it's a really great tool. I'm not familiar with Waze, but you know, Zone Haven is not a navigational tool. So I guess Waze is another type of navigational tool that people are using. And evidently there's some compatibility with Waze and Zone Haven. I have not used Waze yet. So this is available to you. It talks about the zone. It's available to you if you need it on the website for the Fire Safe Council, as well as you can go directly to the link from Zone Haven Aware. So any questions on that? And do you have most of you gone to see your zone? I think most everybody here is aware of their zones, correct? Or do you want me to show you?
Yeah.
I have a question for you,
Yeah,
Linda, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but during the mountain fire, when it took off again the other day, they split zones, and that one was new to me. And I had to kind of do some head scratching and figuring out what the difference was between 2717A and 2717B. And so I don't know if my question is really, when they split them, how do they decide? Do you know how they decide? Is it just exactly in half? Is it on a geographical points?
Somebody else might actually be able to answer that better than me. I know you can certainly go to your zone area and you can see where the split is.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of how they do it, I imagine there's a variety of reasons why they feel they need to split out a zone.
Right. So
Michael had his hand up.
I don't have a lot of experience with Zone Haven, though I've been using it this summer. I was at a cooperators meeting during the Yeti fire in Happy Camp. This would have been a month and a half or so ago. And I went to a number of them. And one morning they decided to split up one of the zones, right? And it was a kind of an incident command kind of a team. They recognized that this one zone was super big, right? Which some of our zones in Siskiyou County are. They didn't think it was necessary, like an on the ground decision, and they were able to just literally draw a line, right?
Oh.
Sure, this could happen in many different formats during different types of incidents, potentially by different folks in this decision-making role. But I saw that happen during the Yeti fire, and at that time it made sense that they did that. So that's pretty much all I know about that, but I did see it happen in real time a month and a half.
That makes perfect sense to me, Michael, from the standpoint of an operational, when you don't want to evacuate a whole area, but you know, but you can see the need for it smaller. It's just, I'm curious, is on the ground as a consumer, is how do we know when that happens and where that line is? I think maybe there needs to be some clarification or education on that.
Well, if you already know your zone and you go to that area, like if I were to go to my, you know, you go to your main zone, and if that zone is split, it will be very clear on where that split is. They will tell you in each area, you'll be able to see. And you can blow up the map and see where your street is.
Yeah.
Each zone also shows the borders and all the street borders of that zone. So it's
and in the mountain fire, because there's no roads up where they were splitting it, there was no real way to tell. So that's where I think where my confusion came in, is like there was a line down the middle, in the middle of a very mountainous area, that it didn't really help me that much. So
I see.
That's fine. I have that answered my question enough. Julie, you had a question.
Just gonna say, Jamie, that I think that's a really good question. I would think that maybe that's something that Brian Shinoni could answer, because you're right. I mean, it would make sense if they go, well, we're going to do it, you know, east-west versus north-south, or what? Do they have a way that they think ahead that they want to do it regardless of geography, or is there a protocol? Don't know. I think you should ask him.
We will pass on any information or any questions from this to Brian. Unfortunately, he didn't respond for tonight. So Kristen, you have your hand up? Oh no, you're applauding.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. But yeah, it definitely seems like if this is something that obviously happens in the moment during these incidences, that it should be part of the FAC. It should be part of that list of frequently asked questions. Like in some events, your zone may be split. I don't know if that, I mean, that obviously feedback should go straight to Zone Haven, I'm assuming, not Brian. But then,
there actually is a little bit that you can split a zone, and I believe it is in the FAQ. I can't quite find it right now. And there's also a way you can contact Zone Haven directly if you can't get a response or an answer, and they will try to help you.
But it also
That's-
seems like
that's a
that
good
should be like, I don't know, the system obviously, but it seems like that should be an alert that goes out, like a code red alert, like
Yeah,
your
we've
zone
changed.
has now
Yeah.
been split, and here are the parameters and information. That should be like an upfront thing, not a, you know, after the fact, leaving the residents scrambling to figure out, oh, this happened. Oh, now what does this mean? That should be on their end more proactive and upfront. It seems
Absolutely.
like that should be
Yep.
a code red alert or something.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Well, we can pass on the questions to Brian and to Zone Haven and see what responses we get, and we can report back too. We can put them on our Facebook page and our website then. Do we have any other questions for Zone Haven or for Linda? I know a lot tonight. We're preaching a lot to the choir, but we do have some other folks that might have questions. I want to make sure I get everybody. Kristen, did you have your hand up again? Okay. Okay. It's a lot to watch on this page. All right. Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right.
It's very easy to use, really. And
yeah.
I think our biggest challenge is getting people to really understand that it's important for them to stay tuned and know your zone and be aware. Because we still have lots of people, we've been really hammering it in Dunsmuir, but there's still people that, you know, well, I don't need to know my zone, and you know, I'll figure it out. They'll code red me, whatever. You know, there's still people that have kind of a lax attitude about it, and that's probably the biggest job we have, is to getting people to take it seriously.
And I watched a lot of the Facebook posts and responses to when both the mill and the mountain fire and even the McKinney fire going on, and people really not understanding still Zone Haven and their zones yet. So that's why I wanted it presented tonight. But even after the mountain fire, there was still lots of questions that people are asking directly to CAL FIRE when it's not CAL FIRE's program stuff. So, well, we'll keep educating people along with the county. So, all right, can move on then. And next is the Shasta Valley RCD. With the McKinney Scott project update. Lindsay, it's time for you.
Awesome. I'm going to try to share some maps with you guys. So let's see if I can share my screen.
I might need to make you a co-host.
Oh yeah,
to
if you want to do that. And yeah, sorry, I didn't. I should have mentioned that earlier when we got on. And we're still waiting for people.
Let me see if I can find you. There you are. And you are now a co-host.
Okay.
So you should be able to share.
Thank you. Okay, can you see this map? It's just a PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Here, I can turn my so Giselle contacted me to talk about the McKinney Scott fuel reduction project, because it sounded like there were some folks that found out about it and just kind of wanted to learn about more information about it. So it is a collaborative landscape scale fuel reduction project that is a partnership with the, us, the Shasta Valley RCD, the Siskiyou County, Oregon State University, Klamath National Forest, and also FWS Forestry as the timberland managers for the Acer Klamath Forest LLC. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a second here. But it is a CAL FIRE Forest Health grant funded project that we, well, actually the county, Siskiyou County, is the primary grantee on this grant, but the RCD is a partner to help manage all the implementation on it. And so the partnership received the award earlier this year, and we've been doing the environmental compliance CEQA for it, as well as some pre-treatment effectiveness monitoring to get the stand conditions in order to kind of get the work on the ground, and then we can measure kind of how the conditions changed out there. And so looking at this map, it's kind of a larger scale view of it. You see, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but on the right side, there's this small label that says Wairika. So the town of Wairika is over here. And then Fort Jones is south end on the kind of bottom of this map. And then Scott Bar is down over here. The Scott River Road kind of wraps around this big ridge line. And so this yellow piece is the project area. And the green lands here is obviously Forest Service, and beige is BLM, pretty typical. And the purple and the blue are, well, the purple was formerly Fruit Growers Supply Company, the timber company based in Hilt, and they were purchased, or all their land ownership was purchased by Acer Klamath Forests last year. And then a similar transaction occurred on these blue lands, which were Michigan California Timber Company, which was a land ownership under Timber Products that has the mill in Wairika. And so they were purchased by the same company. So the purple and the blue are now owned by the same large timber company, and they're all managed by a forestry consultant called FWS Forestry, which is really confusing out here in California because Fish and Wildlife Service is also often referred to as FWS. But the F and W and the S, I guess, in FWS Forestry is actually some people's last names, and it's a forestry consultant company that is based in the Southeast, but has management over, out here on the West Coast as well. So it's a pretty large partnership, and it's a cross-boundary project where we have treatments on, both the industrial timberlands and then also on the Klamath National Forest. And I'm sorry, it's a little hard to see here. I'll show you another map that's a little more zoomed in a second. But this map is also, I put some other projects that we have in the area, the RCD. So we're still managing this Craggy Good Neighbor Authority project, which is the orange. And then there's also a Wairika Ridge Field Break that we're partnering with the Wairika Fire Safe Council on, which is red. And then these kind of gray units are part of the larger Craggy Vegetation Management project on the Klamath National Forest that these treatments have actually been complete. And so all these treatments that we're partnering on are kind of just trying to expand the initial treatments that the Klamath has done, and just keep trying to make this landscape a little bit more fire resilient. But obviously you can see the big checkerboard there at the top. This is the McKinney fire footprint that burned through this area this summer. And so obviously this Craggy Good Neighbor Authority project's been highly impacted by that. So we've been really busy figuring out how to kind of pivot and what we want to do there. But luckily with this McKinley Scott project, only kind of this northern portion was impacted by the fire, but we're still kind of evaluating how we want to go about working on it, kind of addressing those treatments. It's likely that we're just going to kind of be doing more work down here on this ridgeline. But you can see that, that it's this very prominent ridge here in the Scott Bar Mountains between Fort Jones and Scott Bar. And so it's a, you know, really strategic ridgeline in terms of fire suppression. And so let me go, this is a little bit more of a zoomed in map, and sorry that they're different colors. And this one is a little bit busier with the topo lines and everything, but you can see, get a little bit close. Oh, wait, no, a little bit closer. That's not too close. You can see in here how it's much more kind of cross boundary with the green being the Forest Service. The yellow is the old fruit growers, and this orange kind of salmon color is the old Mish-Cal. And so the treatments out here on the Forest Service, a lot of all the thinning and fuels work has been complete, and you know, Anna could actually maybe give you more information on those. And sorry to kind of put you on the spot. I wasn't expecting to ask for your help in giving this presentation, but from what I understand is that the you know, the thinning's all done on the Forest Service, so all of the treatment activities on the Forest Service side is going to be prescribed fire. And actually this piece up here, if you can see my cursor in this section 14 and kind of the northeast corner of this view, is a really interesting spot. So I was actually out on the McKinney Fire as a resource advisor for the forest, and I was working up in this area, and it was really interesting to see how, so the McKinney Fire did burn through these sections a little bit, and but it literally burned just around this, and it's pretty prominent on the map, the fire perimeter maps and on the ground. And they had burned this once before, at least once before, as I understand. I could be wrong, but so it was just really interesting, even though it's this kind of funky shape and a kind of a fairly small footprint, it's really evident on the ground that the fire that they, you know, the intentional fire, the prescribed fire they put in here, the wildfire completely just burned around it. It's really interesting to see. So, you know, that's what we're looking for with this whole project. Hopefully eventually having it being really fire resilient. And so all the treatments on the industrial timberlands, though, in this phase are all just going to be, you know, thinning, mastication, directed herbicide to try to, you know, reduce the fuel load, open up the canopies a little bit to reduce that canopy to canopy torching that can happen. And we're really trying to, you know, make these fuel breaks really effective. So, you know, Dan Blessing at the RCD and Clint Isbell at the Klamath National Forest and others have worked together on numerous projects, doing a lot of fire modeling, trying to design prescriptions for fuel breaks that actually work and don't just totally blow over. So, you know, making them a little bit wider and, you know, these are shaded fuel breaks. So it's not like we're completely, you know, just gonna moonscape the ridges of this area, but, you know, it's designed to still be productive forest and timberlands, but just allow, you know, be more fire.
Thank you.
It'll stop or slow down. Does someone have a question, or is there just some feedback?
I think that was just background.
Okay.
Somebody keep the room.
Gotcha.
It was nice spending time with you today. I love you so much.
So I'm hearing some, okay, I think it looks like it got muted. Okay. So another interesting part about this project is we are partnering with Oregon State University that is working on a fisher study. So the Pacific fisher is kind of a species of interest, and there's been a long-term fisher monitoring program within the Scott Bar Mountains and kind of the greater Klamath Mountain area. And And so there's a long-term data set about population dynamics for the Pacific fisher in this area. And they were able to study the impacts of wildfire on the fisher when the beaver fire came through and burned, north of this area. And so OSU wanted to partner on this project to study the effects of what fuel reduction treatments would have on the fisher and kind of compare those with the wildfire impacts. And it, it's probably pretty obvious to everybody, but the wildfire impacts had negative effects on the fisher population. And so, the hypothesis here on this project, this was all before the McKinney fire too, by the way, was that, there may be kind of a short-term decline in fisher populations from, some of the treatments in here, but in the long-term large scheme of things, it's much reduced impacts than a large wildfire would have. Again, all that's kind of changing because of the McKinney fire footprint. And so OSU is still kind of redesigning their study, but they do still intend to do some fisher monitoring and some analysis as part of this project. Let's see, I think that's kind of the gist of it. I guess for timeline, we're, like I said, we're working on the CEQA and the monitoring and kind of adjusting some of the treatments or the scope because of the fire impact. But, within the next year, we'll start implementation up there. And this is also intended to be just kind of phase one of the McKinley-Scott fuel reduction project. And there's intentions on, expanding this fuel reduction project, just kind of keep taking it downhill on either side of the ridge here. We just wanted to kind of establish this anchor on the primary ridge and then continue treatments and future funding opportunities to try to build, more depth and just try to continue to do good work out there to create more landscape level fire resilient forests. So that's that project, and I'll pause and see if there's any questions or anything anyone has. And Giselle invited me to share about some of our other projects, so I was going to just touch on the West Mount Shasta project because that one's in a similar time frame as this. But it looks like Scott has a project or a question.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay, for that presentation. We've been hearing about this project for a long time, and I'm glad to see it's moving through. I would be interested on your total project area of treated land. What would your severity look like if we were to overlay the severity burn scar of McKinney? Was there any difference?
Yeah, so it let me go back to the first map and kind of zoom into the perimeter here. Oops, wrong way. So yeah, so it is interesting. So the units here that are kind of a little bit more interior and lower down in the drainage. So this is, kind of the primary ridge line up here. And, this is the Mill Creek drainage, and then Indian Creek, or no, this is Rattlesnake and Indian Creek. And if folks are familiar with this area. And yeah, the fire effects are really severe down here where it really pushed up hard and fast that first day, but up here on the ridge, it's actually really mixed severity. Like this little bowl in here, there were some areas that you know, kind of torched out some clumps of younger trees, but there's some mature stands that actually have more just kind of a mixed severity that will probably survive, and you know, we may very well just go in and kind of clean up the stuff that is dead or expected to die from the fire damage in there, but leave the trees that are healthy and vigorous. And you know, same thing up here. This is kind of an interesting little donut spot, but so this yellow in here, that if you can see my cursor, let me try and get a little bit closer actually. So this in here is that spot that I was telling you about that is, you know, it's kind of hard to see with this, the hash marks, but it completely just burned around the stand that the Forest Service had burned in a prescribed burn in the past. Yeah, and so up here kind of on the edge, it again is more kind of mixed severity fire effects.
Thank you very much. So it definitely will support that we need to treat in more stages and at a quicker pace. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I wish we could have got in here faster, especially this Craggy project, the orange here. We had contractors that had finally just hit the ground and had worked for 2 weeks. And then the fire started and they almost lost all their equipment in the fire, but luckily we're able to get it out. So yeah, we're definitely trying to work as fast as we can, but there's only so many of us and so much time and so much money, and there's a lot of requirements in the way. But we try to streamline stuff as much as we can at the RCD.
Lindsay, speaking of that, Michael had some questions on the chat.
Oh, I haven't.
How did you get NEPA coverage for such a large area? How long did it take? How much did the environmental compliance element cost?
Okay, yeah, good question. So we are we're still doing the CEQA. So it's a CAL FIRE project. So we're doing CEQA, and the Shasta Valley RCD, since we're a special district of the state, can be the lead agency for CEQA. And so we are working with the timberland managers to develop a categorical exemption, notice of exemption document for this. And so, you know, the foresters have been able to do all of the surveys and ARC records checks and reports and all that kind of stuff, because that's similar, you know, same stuff that they have to do for timber harvest plans. And then we're able to review that documentation and then file it. And so we're still wrapping all of that up, but we are hoping to file that in the next couple of months and then be able to put the work out to contract. And then on, you know, on the Forest Service side, they did all the NEPA and everything years ago as part of these, you know, Singleton and McBaldy projects. And under SB 901, as long as NEPA is done on federal land, CEQA applies. So that's how we're doing the environmental compliance there. How much did it cost? Oh, that would be hard. I would have to do some digging, because again, most of the survey work has been done by the foresters, and so we would have to try to like calculate their costs. But so yeah, I don't think I feel comfortable giving out a ballpark, but it's definitely a long and not cheap process.
All right, is there any more questions for Lindsay? I don't have a direct question, but more of a comment. You talked about the resiliency of the trees where the fire moved through, that wasn't as high of intensity, and which ones will, how many you'll be looking at, which die off and which ones withstand the fire. It would be interesting, and I don't even know if we can do it, but it would be interesting to see the effect that the drought has on the resiliency of the trees to withstand a fire, even at the lower intensity. I mean, we're seeing that, I'm seeing the death of our forest all around from the drought. And it makes me wonder about it. The normal resiliency to fire adapted species may decrease because of the drought.
Yeah, I mean, it's very prevalent all throughout the West, and it's becoming more and more apparent, in our backyards, all the trees dying from the drought. And I think, it would be hard to really pinpoint and study that on the research side. I mean, I'm sure someone probably is who's a lot smarter than I am, but it is interesting, that's part of, thinning out these trees not only opens up the canopy so that fire can't move in between, but then it's reduced competition for those, the water resources, especially, up on the ridge tops where it's so limited. And so, by doing these thinning projects, it focuses the growing space and water and nutrients on those residual trees. So, hopefully, it makes them more vigorous by those means so that, they have more defense mechanisms to help take scorch and, any heating that might hit them. And I know that I think the forest is planning on doing some studies in this area about kind of the impacts of the fuels treatments that have been done on the fire, but I don't know specifics about that.
Yeah, we're required to do fuels treatment effectiveness monitoring for all of our areas that we've done fuels treatments on, whether that be just thinning, the piling, pile burning, understory burning, all of that. We have to update some of our databases, but we had at least 130 different intersects of units that had burned in the McKinney fire. So we're going to be doing some extensive monitoring to update that database. And then some of the units in that area that Lindsay was pointing at, where it kind of hit our prescribed burn and burned around it. Some of the adjacent units we had set up for prescribed burning. So they had already been thinned and piled. We're going to be doing some more extensive plot data in those areas. So once we get some of our data in, I'll definitely be working with Jen Erickson to make sure that's known to the public. And we're also going to be working with some fire ecologists from the regional office that are going to help us put together like a story map where we can show exactly what you guys are saying with the severity and how the fire burned through there and the relationship to some of our fuels projects.
Okay, thank you.
I think that'll be really interesting data to share and stories to share.
Yeah, it sounds like something we should plan a Fire Friday for that, or even larger scale presentation, because that's really critical to get that information out there once you guys have it compiled.
Yeah, and I know the morning after the McKinney fire made the big push, I was dealing with the lightning that we had going on at the same time, but I was listening to the command frequency, and all of those units that are on the ridge system on the south side of where that fire was, Gun Sight Ridge and all that, if you're familiar with it, and it's on the map that Lindsay has up. They were key strategic holding features that they were looking at in case the fire did start moving further south. So we had, our fuels units that were impacted. Some of them we noticed did modify fire behavior. Some of them didn't. And it was just due to slope and aspect and the fire behavior when it came through that area. But they were also part of the strategic planning for the contingency lines.
Yeah, I'll add that, I was up here that day after it started. I was in Klamath River. I mean, I live down in the river corridor, so I was down in there when it started, and the fire behavior was absolutely mind-boggling, and the weather conditions too were insane. Up here on this ridge, it was like 106 degrees at 2 o'clock in the morning that morning after it started. And I was up here that next morning, and we could see torching coming up from the drainage and kind of pushing this ridge, but they were able to put hand crews in there to go direct and hold it on this ridge system. And I attribute that absolutely to the fuels treatments that were up there.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Lindsay? My chat disappeared. Sure.
Yeah, I don't see anyone in the chat.
I guess one question from George.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Is that little red mark over there, is that the Wairika Ridge fuel break?
Yes, this one over here.
Because I'm doing some outreach on that at the balloon fair, and along with some of your crew there. And at some point, I guess I'm supposed to give a report to this group, or have you guys been informing them of that project also?
Yeah, we were, I can't remember if I've mentioned this one to you guys yet or not. Yeah, we can. I don't know if you are you wanting to do that now, George? Or
well, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. Well, if they want, we could talk about it. But I didn't want to mess up with their agenda, and I didn't ask to get on the agenda, so I don't want to. Maybe we can do it the next meeting or whatever their wishes are.
Yeah, George, that would be great for next meeting. We'd love that.
Sounds good.
Okay, anything else for Lindsay? Okay, Lindsay, thank you very much for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely keep you posted on, project developments as it's getting into implementation phase and all that good stuff, but there's some nitty gritty of planning.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Next on our agenda is we have the Happy Camp Community Center Jumpstart Grant update with, and we have, it's not Abby, we have, is it Marie was in place?
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
here.
I
I
got
just
that
couldn't
right.
make it tonight.
It's all right.
Hi all. So my name is Marie Caldwell, and I direct the Siskiyou Works grassroots organization that links education to industry, but we've also been a primary supporter of the Slater Fire long-term recovery team and Happy Camp. And so in partnership with the Happy Camp Community Center, we wrote the PrEP CA grant out of Cal OES to support and build capacity in Happy Camp around long-term recovery and prevention. So I have just a little brief PowerPoint here.
Okay, I think Giselle has to make you a co-host.
Nope, it's good. She's made
me. Oh, okay, good.
All right, everybody can see the title page? Okay, great. So the Slater Fire Long-Term Recovery Group is fiscally sponsored by the Happy Camp Community Center, and Siskiyou Works is currently fiscally sponsored by the OrCal RCMD Council, but we have also sponsored some grants through Cradles to Career for Siskiyou, and we work side by side with Happy Camp Community Center to write and secure the PrEP CA grant. And so key activities, so basically, oops, I forgot to get rid of sample text at the bottom there, but key goals and outcomes and activities for this PrEP CA grant is to support long-term recovery process through personnel, a program manager and a community resilience officer, as well as support the whole process of the LTRG, supporting the working teams that are working in fundraising, forest recovery, crisis management, and spirituality, and the housing rebuilds, along with helping the Happy Camp community implement the county hazard mitigation plan and the Happy Camp Fire Safe Council community wildland protection plan. So this is about adding human resources to move those plans forward in the community of Happy Camp as an unincorporated community of Siskiyou County. And so, the other real big element in year 4 is that community education and outreach. The goal is to become a CERT community as well as FireWise, both through the nonprofit organization, but really work to get homeowners to be FireWise and be able to be certified possibly through their insurance companies so that they can secure insurance. As you know, many of the homes and individuals were canceled some years ago on insurance, and that's really causing a huge issue on recovery because many of those folks who lost their homes did not have adequate insurance or had no insurance. So in year 1, this is a 5-year grant. It's a little under $1 million. And in year 1, our key goals are to recruit and hire a program. I keep getting this what we're calling it wrong, but it's a program director or program manager for the grant itself, and also to assist and support the community resilience officer. We call it the CRO. The action plan is to also secure some additional funding to be able to get some of this work done, both within the community of Happy Camp and on private land outside, partnering with those agencies that are already working towards that goal, like MCWIC, the Fire Safe Council, and other organizations in our community that are doing fuels reduction work. So really to come alongside them and help leverage what they're already doing. We're also providing some support with that program manager or that project manager to support the rebuild process in Happy Camp. That's been a pretty big load on the Happy Camp Community Center. So really coming alongside to help their finance group. So as those homes are being rebuilt in partnership with Hope Crisis Response Network, 1, the funds are flowing the way they need to, and 2, ensuring that those homes are meeting fire safe standards. So we're not having to backtrack after everything's in and the landscaping's done to say, oh, by the way, let's do some work to harden that home. And the CRO in the first year will also be working towards figuring out exactly what needs to happen to become FireWise and CERT. In year 2, we're hoping that we can become CERT, be a designated CERT community, as well as FireWise, but we know that's going to take a lot longer. It's, you go through the process on the nonprofit organization to be designated, but then you have the hard work of helping all those homes to ensure that they really can secure the best insurance and have the most protection. And then finally in year 4, key goal, and we'll be doing the education and outreach throughout, but for really hitting it hard to make sure that any homes that we have and communities members that we haven't hit are hit to be able to, have a defensible space. Again, this is really working side by side to leverage what's already happening in Happy Camp and the organizations that are already working down there. And so that's it. It's about a 5-year grant. It is a little under $1 million, mostly to add personnel and capacity to the Happy Camp community. And once it's up and running with a program, a program manager as well as a CRO, hopefully they will both be active participants in both this organization and then the Fire Safe Council of Happy Camp.
Are you in year 1 technically now?
We are in year 1. We are nearly done with the job descriptions for the program manager and the project manager and the CRO. We hope to begin flying the position for project manager by the end of, not next week, but the week after, to have that person on the ground and working and supporting this process, hopefully by the first part of November, and then the CRO quickly behind that. And per the direction of Cal OES, we are going to first try to hire people. If we cannot get an adequate hiring pool that way, we'll look to possibly contract with an organization.
And Michael had the question, could you explain what CERT is for those who don't know?
Oh gosh.
I can help you.
Where's George? George is my acronym guy. George, are you on? What does CERT stand for? I forget. Sorry, I've been on like 6 meetings today, none of which has to do with fire.
I know it's a national program that helps community. Go ahead, George, you can do it.
Community Emergency Response Team.
Thank you. And when you become a CERT community, it opens up a whole wide range of grants that you can access to be able to leverage the other grants that you have to improve your community.
And there's also,
I knew someone was going to ask that. I think George even said that on another meeting I was on earlier.
They do a lot of training too. They do community training, like your go bags and what's involved in that. They help people designate on evacuations and even simpler things like CPR. So they're kind of a well-rounded civilian-based national organization.
Yeah, with certified training, and they are called out by OES. They don't go out on their own. They're called out during an emergency. But they know the training they have. They know the whole hierarchy of emergency response, and they know, and folks that are sending them out know what training they have, and I'm not going to put them in bad situations, but they are the community.
Right.
And this, really the key piece to this grant for the Happy Camp community is to build capacity, right? So to have folks down there that can support and train, and also reach out to the other organizations in our county that are working towards the same end. Kristen, you had a question?
Scott was first. I'm sorry, Kristen.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott. I thought that was your question, sir.
No, I appreciate the introduction. I'm kind of bummed out that I have gone a whole year, it sounds like, without even knowing your guys' existence until about a week ago. So I appreciate your efforts there in Happy Camp. I helped initially attack that fire. And in regards to the CERT, have you had much involvement with the tribe?
Yeah, the tribe has been a close partner in both the Slater Fire LTRG, in some of the other efforts. One of the things that spawned, which probably has not a lot of interest in this group, but one of the places where we partnered with the Slater Fire LTRG is early on we identified barriers and challenges for the community. One of those barriers and challenges was lack of childcare, because so many of their homes burned down. Nobody had a home to be able to keep children in so that folks could go to work. And so the tribe came alongside the Happy Camp Community Center and Siskiyou Works and Siskiyou First 5, along with the Resource and Referral, the Siskiyou Child Care Council, to help stand up a child care center in Happy Camp. And so now they have 25 spots, and they just were certified for infants. And now they have that. So the tribe has been hugely helpful. You know, and of course, in the very initial stages of recovery, they bought trailers so folks could stay in Happy Camp. But yeah, they've been very close. And I've been in communication with Connor, who's part of their natural resources. And he's super interested in coming alongside as a partner as we roll out the Prep CA grant.
The reason I mentioned the tribe is about 10 years ago, we started a CERT program for Wairika, Happy Camp, and Orleans. So a lot of the work you may dig into the tribe about and maybe save you some workload. But thank you.
It would be awesome if you could just shoot me maybe a key contact that was involved in that initial rollout of CERT, and that would be awesome.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Kristen?
Yeah, hi Marie. I worked with Abby and Michael and came out for that Youth Fire Science Education Day, and the big partnership collaboration with the Karuk tribe and Cal Fire Forest Service. That was in July, mid-July. So it was really awesome to be out there and work with all those awesome kids, half of which had lost their homes in the Slater fire. And I just am curious about and we can have we can schedule a time for us to talk about this, about the Firewise community being so far back in the timeline. We'd love to work with you guys on that and push it up for all the folks who didn't lose their home. We're just in the process of starting, our first Firewise community in Dunsmuir, and have had a lot of meetings with a lot of people the past month. And a lot of these Firewise communities we've talked with in Northern California, it only took them 2 months to get their certification. And those people that, still have homes could really benefit. I'm not sure if you're aware of the regulatory mandates coming down the pipeline by the end of the year with the insurance companies. Yeah, so we'd love to, that's, kind of our, one of our new goals with the county level Fire Safe Council is getting these Firewise communities going. So if we can help you guys move that timeline up to help out those folks that still have homes out there, we'd love to talk to you about that. Because as far as we have found out from all the people who've done this a lot, it shouldn't take that long, and it's not that hard to do. Yeah. So
absolutely, that would be wonderful. I was on a meeting this morning with Luna Latimer, who's the MCWIC executive director, and she's part of our recruiting team. And the team actually looked at that process, that Firewise process. It does look pretty straightforward. The second piece to that is the insurance companies have that whole nother layer of expectation that sometimes is a moving target. And so we knew that the Firewise piece was probably not going to take very long, but it's that second component that might take longer. So that's why we wanted to give ourselves plenty of time. And so people didn't think out the gate that, oh gosh, it's not good. As soon as we're Firewise through the Firewise organization, we'll be able to move fast. And that was just a concern. Really, again, to build that capacity. But I can reach out and connect you with Abby, and we'll be in a lot better place here in the next, say, 3 months when we have our program project manager and our CRO on board.
Yeah, you guys have so much going on. Yeah. But yeah, you're ready.
And just as a side note, we Siskiyou Works actually has the grant that GSK STEM in the summer that supported the Happy Camp Little Campers Camp for the summer, so that they could do a lot of those hands-on science work, as did Cradles to Career for Siskiyou. So
wonderful.
So we helped.
It was so incredible to be part of that. I was really grateful.
Yeah, the big focus for us is really bringing that career technical component to the youth, so they can see what is in their community, just like what you did, where you're not only educating about being Firewise, but you also are talking about what you do as a job. So
yeah, that's awesome. Great. Yeah, because we talked to these folks in well, it was Big Sur area, but yeah, in that that area. They went from 0, having no fire safe councils, to 27, I'm sorry, Firewise communities. They went from 0 to 27 Firewise communities in 13 months. So I was like, wow, okay, Siskiyou County has.
We should be able to do that.
That seems pretty amazing, but maybe it's possible. I was like really impressed, but so we'd love to work with.
So I put my email in the chat. If you want to just shoot me an email, that would be awesome. So I have your contact information.
Yeah, definitely.
Same thing, Scott. Yeah, I have my contact information.
The other thing, we've got Sarah Theus and Rachel Ostrander on here, who trained us and dozens of other people here in Dunsmuir in June on the WFAP, the Wildland Fire Assessment Program. And it just seems like that that's a train the trainer program. Not saying that I necessarily feel like an expert after being trained to train you guys out there, but might be something for us to talk about. I'll put it in my notes here. We can, talk about it when you guys are at that point of possibly, seems like that would be a really great tool that fits in really synergistically with everything else you guys have in your trajectory. So just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely.
And Marie, also our next meeting in October for the Fire Safety Council will be focusing on Firewise communities. So if you're obviously always welcome to join, but it might be of particular interest then next meeting.
Absolutely. I'll make a note and see if we can't get, wouldn't it be awesome if we actually had our program manager, our program manager on board by then, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Thanks.
And
I think
Julie
had a
Titus,
question.
yeah.
Since we're talking about Firewise communities, I just had a thought. I was reading some definitions and I know they have pretty defined definitions, but when I think of this county and the severity of the fires throughout the entire county, that it's affected everywhere, it's almost like, you want to jump in and get every community in there. And it made me wonder, Jamie, when we do the discussion for whatever meeting you're going to have it, is to think about the idea of maybe even areas, like we have the county divided into 6 planning areas in the our protection plan. And I don't know, I'm just brainstorming I wonder if there's such a thing, or it just has to be individual community by individual community. And I don't know, thought.
Yeah, let's look into that. That's a great idea, because if we could get a larger area for a Firewise community, then it wouldn't be then we wouldn't end up with 27 Firewise communities like we have with Fire Safe Councils. We could do a broader paintbrush of it.
A region, an area, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah, well, look, definitely that will be where we start looking on what we can do with that.
Definite parameters in the Firewise community, Firewise USA documents. Yeah, it's like 2,500 homes is the limit of how big you can make your Firewise community. So,
well, in Siskiyou County, 2,500 homes can be a huge area then.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what do they do with communities like Wairika with 7,500?
Is it
It can't be a Firewise community. I guess I need to know some more details on what the 2,500 limit is.
Yes, George, you can be a Firewise community. You just divide it into smaller groups. So it's anywhere from 8 to 2,500. You can do as many as you want. The problem is that you have to have a ambassador or a neighborhood coordinator or somebody to run the program in each of those. And one county, Sonoma, they're going to hire just a Firewise coordinator, because it's going to be quite a job to keep all those little Firewise communities up to date, because you have to do work every year and submit stuff every year. So yeah, but you don't have to be only 2,500. It's from 8 to 2,500, and you can make as many as you want.
We got Wairika broken up into several groups of Fire Safe Councils, so that might be doable, I guess. Yeah. I can see where, if they make you break it up, I can see how that works. So
I'm gonna cut off the conversation on the Firewise stuff because that is for next month. And we still have some presentations to go tonight. And I didn't want to cut Marie off and getting sidetracked on something. So Marie, do you have anything else then?
I do not. I just want to thank you all for letting me come and present and share. Again, I put my email in the chat. Please feel free to tag me and I can get you in the loop with Abby and our project teams around this Prep CA grant and Happy Camp. And we're working closely with MCWIC and we're working closely with the Fire Safe Council down there as well to ensure, again, that we're leveraging and coming alongside the organizations that are already doing the work and not trying to redo somebody else's work. So that's our big goal. And I'm going to step off because I haven't left this seat in hours. So
all right, well, thank you, Marie. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and sorry, George, I really did not mean to cut you off, but we will have lots of discussion next month on it. And so next on our agenda is the W Trex. Michael, are you still with us? There you are.
Yes, I am. And just for clarification, so my name is Mike Hentz again with the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council. So for about 8 years, we've been having the Klamath River Prescribed Fire Training Exchange. It's built with a partnership with the Fire Learning Network and the Nature Conservancy, but it includes a remarkable amount of partners. I'm going to flash all those logos or partners to this thing. So we've been doing this for locally in the Klamath River for, I think this will be our 8th or 9th year. I think there was
9th year.
Yeah, was that
9th year?
And then there was a couple predecessor years kind of leading up to it. There, for the first time ever, there's something called a Women in Fire, women's Trex. And though I'm helping to plan the event, I'm not the best speaker for women's Trex. It's also focused on burning for cultural use with focusing on Indigenous participants. So this is an amazing thing. I think they had, how many participant applicants did the women's Trex have? Maybe
200, somewhere in that ballpark, right, Lindsay?
Around the country?
Yeah, definitely over 100. Yeah, international applications.
So there's events happening. The first for 2 weeks starting September 26th is the Women in Trex. And then following that, we go into our kind of historic Klamath River Trex. These are I've got a visitor. These are amazing events, and maybe in a minute, Eric can chime in on women's Trex, and we could talk for hours, but it's been a really long day for us all. A few of my notes, or just to make sure everyone understands that in order to do prescribed fire, right, we need full burn plans, right, that have been tech reviewed and approved. We need CAL FIRE permits that are based on that burn plan, that site, the weather. We need site visits. In fact, we're actually going on site visits with CAL FIRE tomorrow. We need smoke management plans. Most of our work is on private land. So we work with private landowners and have landowner agreements to be able to burn. They're involved in the discussion of what they want to see, how we're going to burn their place, what their aspirations are. All of the people burning are all NWCG, National Wildland Coordinating Group, qualified firefighters. So they're all firefighter type 2s, firefighter type 1s, and then people with very specific higher level qualifications from burn bosses, et cetera, engine bosses. Our prescribed fires are weather dependent, right? For sure, they're site specific. Which place we choose to burn is done basically. We plan many units well in advance, but those decisions of where we burn are very site specific, very specific to the time. So the idea of good fire is the right time, the right place. I'm just going to burn through my little list. We have funding by multiple sources, and as I said before, the partnerships are very deep. The Crook tribe is a key partner in our local Trex, both because we're burning on Crook lands, even if they're under private management of someone else. This is all Crook ancestral territory. But the crew tribe also has an amazing crew and staff of trained firefighters known as K1. So they bring all types of experience and capabilities to our burns. Something I just want to make sure everybody knows about is we have, I'm going to just hang this up. We have community meetings in Happy Camp tomorrow from 5 to 7 p.m. So if anyone around Happy Camp is available, please come out. It actually coincides with the farmers market's going to be at the Arts Center. So go outside, get some great food and goodies, some lasagna, come inside and listen to a presentation. That's tomorrow night, 5 to 7. And on Friday, it's down in Orleans at the Croup DNR, which is Department of Natural Resources Community Room. So that's Friday from 5 to 7. What was great is Lindsay's presentation on her efforts and an example of how the use of fuels treatments and prescribed fire can very much be effective when it comes to helping us manage better wildland fire or having us have better outcomes in wildland fire events. I have a lot of thoughts about our prescribed fire. In many ways, it's a drop in the bucket when it really comes down to what we should be doing. We're not doing enough. We should be doing very landscape level burns in especially the fall, but there are winter windows that come in. There's very early spring windows, January, February. We might burn in our trexes in the 50s to hundreds of acres range. We should literally be burning thousands of strategic acres. I mean, tens of thousands on a year-to-year level. So what we're doing is a little bit of a test. It's a demonstration. It's a training. We are effective in some small ways on some specific properties, but honestly, prescribed fire needs to be done. I am speaking with the choir. Of course, you all know that we have been suppressing fire successfully now for about 140 years or more. You could just say 100 years, really successfully. These mountains are, of course, fire dependent. They're fire adapted. Without fire, all we're doing is accumulating fuels. We're changing our forest conditions. We're making them more susceptible to intense, highly catastrophic, highly severe fires. We're threatening our communities and burning down our homes. We're killing community members, wildland firefighters at an astronomical cost. I think Will Harling, one of my bosses, co-director of MCWIC, it's in the $150 to $200 million range in our mid-Klamath area in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think that 200 million is actually less than it actually is. So we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on our wildland fire suppression efforts, and we're getting highly dubious returns on that investment. If you look at the type of fire behavior we're seeing after a McKinney fire, after a Slater fire, et cetera. So it isn't that money isn't being spent in this effort. It's not being spent potentially in the best way with the best outcomes. I get a little down about how much environmental compliance work we need to do in order to get anything done. Of course, this is tied to the fact that we're taking federal dollars, which requires NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, or we're taking CAL FIRE dollars, which requires California Environmental Quality Act environmental compliance. So this process is incredibly time consuming, incredibly expensive. And honestly, it's almost as if we're in the year to years out in order to actually work on new properties. And I'm not saying this is for the wrong reasons, but getting qualified wildlife biologists, getting qualified cultural surveyors, working around limited operating periods for the northern spotted owl and other types of things. There are so many roadblocks to implementation. I have community members come to me because I help with our fire safe council, say, Mike, can you come to our house, next week? I literally, if they're not on my list of environmental compliance properties, it could be a year or two out before I can actually say, I can go do some weed whacking at your place with federal money, that I can do the most simple brush work, right? So the need is obvious, the benefit is obvious. The work that we've been doing in prescribed fires, again, has been really successfully accomplished by really trained people from around the world for years. It's actually an amazing program. It takes a lot to pull off. Just feeding about 70 people for a month, the cost and organization of just that one element is spectacular. But we've got a great organization. We've been doing this. I drove up the Scott River to Wairika on Sunday and then back on Monday. And the opportunities for the use of prescribed fire along our river corridors, in and around our communities, in key strategic ridge lines, key strategic areas is so obvious of how great it would be, how necessary it is. So I guess I'm talking to the choir, but I really hope that we can get the word out that the use of prescribed fire at the right time, in the right place, with the right people and teams, with the right intentions, can be done very safely and effectively. And there'll be some great presentations tomorrow night in Happy Camp and on Friday night in Orleans. So please come out. And if you get in touch with us and you're curious about being kind of around some of our burns, we can make that happen, right? We can put you on the list, give you some PPE, and allow you to participate in our event. So thank you guys so much. I kind of just bounced around. I swear I've been on Zoom since 1 o'clock today. And I really appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, I'll be here. And then I might also decide to move on shortly after. So please let me know if you have any questions. And thank you.
Can you see, Michael, that I put up the flyer? Would you like me to send the flyer out to my email list?
Absolutely. Yeah, I sent this out to a big group yesterday and on a bunch of social media stuff. I know Erica Terrence, our PIO, has been doing the same thing, but absolutely feel free to share it.
Okay.
Thanks, Giselle. Yeah, and if you do have an interest in getting out in the field and checking out one of the burns happening during treks, it's usually me that will help you get all the right gear and get you out to the fire line and help you check it out. So I'm happy to facilitate that.
I have a quick question about the mandate from the U.S. Forest Service regarding burning right now nationwide. Does that affect you guys at all as far as getting to be able to burn?
Okay. For a little bit. We've just been learning a little bit even on our planning call today. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm speaking correctly. First of all, there's a gentleman, Randy Moore, who's the head of the Forest Service. We've had prescribed fires that have escaped. I believe it was a New Mexico event, which might have triggered this. There was a moratorium on prescribed burning on federal lands, right? That was instigated this spring. It appears that that's going to be lifted within days. Having said that, it appears that there's more restrictions on how they can allow prescribed fires to be used for resource benefit, for resource management. And these are not making it easier. It appears.
7 o'clock.
Yeah, so I just heard a computer saying 7 o'clock. It's time to go to bed. Is a lot, most of our fires are happening on private land. They're not actually affected by the U.S. Forest Service's decision. Having said that, we have had a huge fuels reduction project called the Somes Bar Integrated Fire Management Project. That's a decade or more in the making. We've been on the ground doing fuels reduction, pile burning, prescribed burning over the last years. We've got great units ready to go in the hundreds and thousand plus acre category. Are we going to be able to burn on in this case, 6 Rivers National Forest land in this season with the new restrictions? I see Scott maybe shaking his hand. It's unlikely. There's really difficult bars you have to meet. It appears that there need to be like line officers, which is basically almost a district ranger level position. And they have to be on site for some significant amount of time during the prescribed fire. Well, imagine you want to do 12 prescribed fires on a very large forest in these very small weather windows that we've got to do safe burning in. If you need somebody like a district ranger to be on site for the burns, it would be hard to do many burns if you have that, and there are more. So George, I think the question or the answer is we are learning more People are learning themselves. Key fuels management officers for the Forest Service are trying to figure out these new regulations and requirements as we speak, but it is not going to make it easier to people to use prescribed fire on Forest Service lands. And please, Scott Steinbrink, or Erica, anyone else, tell me if I'm wrong or say more. If you
No,
wish.
yeah, you're right, Mike. It definitely imposed some more stringent requirements that make it harder to burn on public lands right now. It doesn't, I was on the same planning call that Mike was on earlier. It doesn't sound like it's impossible, but it's more difficult. And Lindsay, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, just like Erica said, we are engaged with our Forest Service partners, both on the Six Rivers National Forest and the Klamath National Forest at Trex. And, we have some really wonderful people working on the ground in fuels and fire management on these forests, and are working really diligently to align their plans with the new requirements, so that, the new requirements aren't impediments. And so we are still considering some public lands units for burning at Trex, as long as our Forest Service partners are able to make the mountains move and get everything in place. But Mike is correct that we are focusing on burning on private lands and Karuk tribal lands, privately owned lands within their Aboriginal territory on all these different ownerships.
Lindsay, do you want to say something about the women's trucks? I know you've been involved from an operations standpoint.
Sure. Yeah. I think, Mike did a great job kind of describing the Trex model and all the partnerships, but there is a really unique opportunity this year where there is a 2-week women's specific Trex here on the Klamath, and they've hosted the Trex program, and coaches have hosted women's Trex in other places in the United States. But yeah, this is going to be the first Indigenous women focused Trex ever to be held. And I can't really, personally speak to the Indigenous side because I'm pretty much as white as it gets. But I've been helping support our Indigenous women partners who've been, amazing putting all this work together. And, fire is a part of their culture, and the plants and animals that their people depend on fire. And so, we're really going to be focusing at the Indigenous women's Trex and burning for cultural resources, basket weaving materials and subsistence crops like, oaks and other things. And so, Mike mentioned the scale of prescribed fire that we need for kind of field management and wildfire risk reduction. The Indigenous women's Trex is a little less focused on getting acres and doing big burns, and more in really tending to these lands and plants that are important for the local tribal people to weave their baskets and feed their families. And so we're kind of more focusing on what I'm calling the quality of burn rather than the quantity of burning. And especially given the drought and the dry conditions that we have, burning smaller units is also kind of a tactical choice to try to get some good fire on the ground and some good training for all these folks that are traveling from, Australia and Mexico and all over the place to come and burn out here. And so, we want to be able to provide those training opportunities, but do it safely. So we're probably going to be looking at some kind of smaller burn units in these first couple weeks of Trex.
I'm probably going to get cut off again, but I got to ask this question if I can, Jamie. I got to ask it. Can she do some of those burns close to the communities so that we can make it, the communities are at risk every year. I hate to see things done way out in the middle of nowhere. We need the work done close to our communities safely so that buffers are ready for the next summer.
Yeah,
If I could
absolutely.
encourage
Well, and
that at all.
also by focusing on the private lands this year, I mean, just by the fact that the private lands are closer to communities and the public lands are kind of more the ones, you know, out in the sticks, if you will. Yeah, a lot of these burns are right close in communities of Orleans, Somme Bar, Happy Camp is really where we're focusing. And I don't know if Mike or Erica, you guys have any of those maps to show, but there are folks that are making some maps that are going to be available to the public to show, you know, and yeah, some of these units are really right in town.
Yeah, we don't have.
That's great. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'll cut out.
That's a great, I appreciate you bringing that up. And that is definitely a big goal of where we put our burn units is around communities, pretty in the wooey, right? For that reason. And it's definitely a goal of ours. Yeah, so I heard Mike mention, you know, Klamath Treks has been going on for 9 years, in case I didn't say that clearly at the beginning. But this year is a little different because the state law passed last year that creates a carve out, you know, it recognizes cultural burn practitioners as burn bosses, basically. And there's more cultural burning that is possible all of a sudden. And so there's a lot more focus on, you know, how to do that and how to really start rolling that out. So this one is a little unique in that way. Basically burning happens all around Happy Camp, down through Soames Bar, down into Orleans. It's a 2-week event, but we've recently in the past couple of years started burning outside the 2-week event because sometimes the burn window is actually not right when we plan on our calendars to do the burning. So that burning can extend all the way into the winter, out into the spring. Even sometimes now we're doing these all hands, all lands burns in like June or July. So that's pretty exciting. Any other questions?
I just want to say for George, George, we need to do a lot more burning right in and around our communities. So we are absolutely not doing enough of that.
Amen. Amen.
I tell people that there is not one piece of private land in the entire Klamath Mountains that actually has an ecological shape to it, right? They're all rectangles or squares or these funny old mining land shapes from way back in the 1800s. We on the Klamath National Forest side have really not been successful so far in doing cross-boundary burns, right? Where we can actually take fire from a piece of private land across up to an obvious road feature or an obvious creek or an obvious ridge. But, you know, we need to be doing a heck of a lot more. We need to have a lot more boots on the ground doing fuel work. We need to do good commercial thinning as a part of it and bring back jobs. I feel a lot of pressure on myself, and I'm not even close to being able to live up my own feeling of the need that we have out there. But we sure need to do more, George. And we do have one property right in town in Happy Camp on right out of Elk Creek called the John Lighthill property that we're hoping to burn. And we've been burning at this place called Morgan Point, and there's an Ishkish tribal property. But man, we need to do more. And thanks for that question, George.
Hey, Mike, did you say the dates of treks at the beginning?
There's again 2 weeks of women's treks. They start September 26th and they go through October 7th. And then the Klamath River treks starts October 10th. I think we're taking a day off or so, and that goes through the 22nd of October. And then we do what Erica Tarrant said is we do an all hands, all lands deal where we use local resources and scrape together people. And ideally, we did this last year very successfully. We burn with the Klamath National Forest on their backlog of piles, and they even have some prescribed fire underburn units that they propose. So we could be burning starting as early as in 12 days from now about, and continuing through the fall, depending on, you know, permits and weather and such. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you both Michael and Erica for your presentation. And yes, That's what I can say, Michael and Erica. Yes, but I agree with what you're saying. At this point, Giselle will take over that leading the meeting. I unfortunately have to leave. I apologize for leaving early. And thank you everyone for attending, but please don't leave just because I am. Giselle, are you ready to take it?
Yeah, I can do this.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good trip,
especially
Jamie.
the presenters. All right. Good night.
Yeah, night. Well, we're going to just kind of go through really quick because our meeting is long and we knew that. So we're going to just, unless you have a burning desire for your Fire Safe Council to update it, we're going to skip Fire Safe Council updates. We don't have anybody from CAL FIRE, do we? Okay, how about Anna, Forest Service?
All right. I'll try to be brief. With our recent fire activity, the Eliza fire, they gridded it today, found no smokes. So that's starting to look really good. And then both the Yeti and McKinney fire were continuing to patrol, mop up as needed. The McKinney fire, we're working on removing danger trees prior to lifting the closure order in that area. And that work will continue for the next month or so. There's a lot of roads in the area where there was some high severity fire in the middle of that McKinney fire footprint. We are assisting CAL FIRE with resources for the mountain and the mill fires, especially providing them with aircraft. Right now, we have 15 engines, 2 crews, 2 dozers, and 2 helicopters in our air attack ready in case we do get another start. Right now, our weather is starting to shift and we're preparing for prescribed fire season. We got that wrench thrown at us this year with the prescribed fire pause, which we talked about earlier. 2 days ago, Chief Randy Moore lifted the burn pause, but that just means that us forests need to have a checklist where we meet certain things before each forest is ready to burn itself. So we essentially have to do like a refresher where we get recertified to be able to burn. There's a new burn plan template. There's 7 different hoops that we need to jump through to get everything stood back up. So tomorrow we're having a lot of meetings so that our forest is on the same page with the national standards and the regional standards to make sure that we are all good to go when the conditions are favorable for us to start burning again. And then we're continuing to support our partner work, supporting Trex, and we're I know at least on my district on the Scott Salmon, there's a couple of units that kind of got caught up in purgatory that I'm hoping that we can get all of the paperwork done so that we can have those opportunities for our Trex partners and end a report unless anyone has any more questions about that prescribed fire pause.
Well, I see that Torchbearer Scott has a question about the bear team. Have they completed their work on the McKinney?
I have been pretty hands off with the McKinney, so I'm not sure about that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Anna?
No, I just want to say, Anna, we've met, of course, and worked together in Trex. You give me open and some optimism having folks like you out there that we're going to be working through this and we can get good work done. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I mean, we're all on the same team. And as we've seen the last couple of years, fire knows no boundaries. And the stronger that we all work together, the better off our landscape and communities will be. So yeah, thank you.
Hey, real quick, Giselle, I think it would be great if Anna wants to explain this, but so sometimes what happens is, and I'm speaking from 27 years in fire and fuels management on the last 8 of it on Shasta T. But I want Anna to explain, because you're up on all the latest policies. Sometimes you'll go into a beautiful burn window, but the southern half of our state may or may not be. And therefore, they have planning levels for all of California. It's Region 5. And so Northern California doesn't always get to burn because of a planning level issue, or an issue that because of resources. And if any of us that have written many burn plans know that you have contingency resources and you won't be able to get them if they're down in SoCal. So maybe you can just really quickly, Anna, explain that. That can happen.
Yeah, one of the things that we need to do before we burn, and this is kind of California specific, is part of our planning process is we need to get concurrence from the dispatch centers before we burn. So we have to give them a certain amount of notice, and both the northern part of the state and the southern part of the state say, yeah, we don't see anything in the forecast. We have all these resources available. You guys are good to go. So that's just another one of the things that we have to plan for on the federal side. And for those of you that do planning, I really would recommend the report came out from the Washington office with their recommendations for what the agency needs to do to be better at prescribed burning. So if you go to the Wildfire Lessons Learned Center, that document's in there, but I could also email it out. And what I thought was really interesting in that document, you know, our meetings really focused on having the agency administrator presence, like what Mike was talking about, and having them more engaged and on the ground. But there's a lot of other things that the agency recognizes that we need to do to get more fire on the ground. So there's an appendix in that document that lists all of these things that the agency is going to explore and try to implement, especially now that we have the infrastructure bill funding and some other funding headed our way with the, I forget what had to do with, but so they're really looking at expanding our capacity for prescribed fire and trying to hire more personnel, exploring the drone program and trying to get our drones more engaged in prescribed fire. And they are looking at that NEPA planning piece of the puzzle, recognizing that we need to be able to get our projects implemented on a faster timeline than we have right now. So in that document, it does highlight all of these things that came out of that report. It didn't just have to do with those 2 prescribed fires in New Mexico. There was some like hard truths explained in those findings. So for those of you that are into reading those documents, I would really explore those. And it's in that Wildfire Lessons Learned page. And then I'll email that to you, Giselle, so you can get it out to everybody.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Any more questions for Anna? So we're going to back up a bit. Is there anyone here from CORE? I didn't. Oh, yeah. Kathleen, do you have any updates for CORE?
We are currently working on homes in Dunsmuir, creating defensible space for a certain population of Dunsmuir, the elderly, the disabled, and the low income. It is going very well. We have a very full queue. We have a waiting list. So as people move out of the queue, the people on the waiting list move into the queue. And it is going very well, and we are getting a lot of work done.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, moving on. OES, no one here. Nancy had another meeting, Ogren, so she couldn't make it. Mike Wilson, I didn't see him. Well, we heard basically from the Prescribed Burn Association. Is there anything else, Lindsay?
Yeah, the main thing we're, working on is supporting Trex, but we are going to be writing some grants for some more workforce development, outreach, training burns for the PBA. So for some of the other partners in this call, we may be soliciting some letters of support for those grant programs. So keep a lookout for those.
All right. NRCS, I don't think they're here. Air quality, not here. Sheriff, not here. Pacific Power, I saw a Todd. Is that from Pacific Power? Anybody here from Pacific Power? Okay, Scott River Watershed Council. Okay, CHP are not here that I can see. Natural Resources, Siskiyou County, not here. Don't have any updates on the Wyden Amendment. Mount Shasta Bioregional, I don't believe is here. And the Forest Management Task Force update, there's no one currently here for them either. So now we're down to the Fire Safe Councils. Is there a Fire Safe Council that has a burning update? Go ahead and do it now. Anybody? Okay, so since it's been kind of a long meeting, we're going to move along. And so I'm going to say action items for next month. We're going to talk about Firewise communities at our next meeting, but also we have a special guest. One Tree is going to come and talk about their program of replanting and some free to low cost options for planting trees that are specific to your areas. So don't miss it. I mean, it's an opportunity to do some recovery and some replanting. So anything else? Next meeting, I have that wrong. It's not September 14th. That's today. So next meeting will be October 12th. October 12th. And we will come back and we'll talk about Firewise communities and free trees and any other options that you have out there. And blessings to everybody in their prescribed burning season. It sounds amazing. Any questions? Speak now.
Just
I just have one addition to when you're done.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, George.
Oh, no, go ahead, Kristen.
It was actually in relation to you. I was going to just ask you to email us what you spoke earlier about wanting to go on the agenda for next month. So just email us, what you want us to put on there.
Yeah, I can email that to you when we get to that point. That's One Tree and Firewise communities are the two things that we're going to put on next agenda.
No. I have that, but George earlier in this meeting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the Wairika Ridge project, I guess.
Yes.
Update on that. Okay.
Yes.
And then I just want to make sure I didn't get a meeting notice. So I just want to make sure I'm on the email list.
Yeah, I did give you finally. Did you get my email?
No, I didn't.
It didn't work? Oh gosh. Well, I tried.
George Jennings 01@gmail.com.
Yep, that's where I sent it.
Okay. Yeah. So I found it through the Facebook page, like you said. I was able to get on. So.
Huh. I don't know why we're not connecting
That's
there,
okay.
but
Sometimes they're,
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
and one other thing I wanted to mention before we go is the balloon fair is September 24th, and the Forest Service and the Fire Safe Council, and I believe George or Cal, or is it fire or the Wairika area?
Wairika Area Fire Safe Council in concert with the Shasta Valley RCD are going to be a part of that, and we're going to be talking about our Wairika Ridge project and have other, we had a good time there. I wanted my own personal hat, though. I'm kind of upset that Kristen has a hat, but that's okay.
Yeah, we've got more, not a lot, but we'll give you one.
Okay, I might add the Wairika Area Fire Safe Council on if I can find a seamstress, but
there you go. Put it on the bill.
yeah.
All right. Okay, you guys, have a good evening. It's been good talking with all of you. Bye now.
Made it. Thanks, you guys. Great.
Hey, Giselle,
Yeah, right here.
they